Dear viewers, welcome to this YouTube channel. In this chapter, there will be an explanation of critiques on the monk, the bandit, and the womanizer, too, as follows. 3. Both monk and bandit, in this case, both Jupiter, 5, and Rahu, 8, are equally powerful as already mentioned. Therefore, only some examples will be explained as follows. The ascendant is in Sagittarius and Mars, 3, is pre-exaltation dignified and conjoins with the ascendant. Jupiter, 5, is Devi Yoga dignified and Rahu, 8, is pre-exaltation and backward Raja Yoga in Libra. The Sun, 1, is unrelated to the ascendant. In this case, the native is soft-hearted and sympathetic. Although Rahu, 8, is more powerful and Jupiter, 5, is Tanu-Lak that conjoins with Rahu, 8. Therefore, it encourages cunning, shrewdness, trickery and sometimes even cheating. Although virtues are still presented since it is in Jupiter's 5 house. However, it falls into Labha Bhava and therefore it encourages profit-seeking or easy gain without investment. The native is considered as both a monk and a bandit. Although the bandit side tends to be stronger than the monk side. The ascendant is in Sagittarius. Jupiter, 5, is domicile dignified and conjoins with the ascendant. Moreover, Rahu, 8, is post-exaltation and conjoins with the ascendant. In this case, Rahu, 8, is just post-exaltation but it is more powerful than Jupiter, 5, which is domicile dignified. Because domicile's positive influence is slow but steady. Therefore, in early life, since they are both conjoined with the ascendant, Rahu, 8, is positive and post-exaltation dignified, the native became indulged in socializing, women, and gambling, and misbehaved. Additionally, the native did not pay attention to studies and acted like a ruffian. However, when the native got older, she became more virtuous and started working as well as helping people. This is considered both a monk and a bandit in the same person. Although the monk side became stronger with time, which corresponds well to the meanings of the planets. To summarize, post-exaltation is more powerful than domicile. Therefore, it will take effects first. Meanwhile, domicile's effects will become prominent in the later stage of life. Post-exaltation's influence is steadily high. Conclusively, both the monk and the bandit are presented, but the monk will eventually become stronger. The ascendant is in Aquarius and the Sun, 1, is detriment dignified that conjoins with the ascendant. Jupiter, 5, is pre-exaltation and detriment dignified which is in trine in Gemini. Rahu, 8, is post-exaltation and Venus, 6, is Moha Chakra and both of them are in backward sextile in Sagittarius. In this case, Rahu, 8, is more powerful than Jupiter, 5, since Rahu, 8, is in backward trine, 60%, meanwhile Jupiter is in trine 50% and Jupiter, 5, is negative and has detriment dignity. As a result, during the teenage years, the native was misbehaved and indulged in women. When the native became older, she became more virtuous and seriously invested in religion. Rahu, 8, infatuation is Tanu-Lak when conjoined with Venus, 6, that is Moha Chakra dignified leads to indulgence in art. When it is in backward sextile it is considered auspicious and therefore the native could do it well so that she has a world-class reputation. Meanwhile, Rahu, 8, represents shrewdness and being sophisticated. The Sun, 1, is conjoined with the Ascendant and is detriment dignified, which indicates unreasonable pride and honor. Foolish pride. Therefore, the native will not cheat others. One more thing that is worth noticing is that the native is not very good at studying since Mercury, 4, is in Venusana, and therefore the native does not like studying. In this case, the saying of, "the sun reflects prestige," is not true. This is because the sun, 1, is detriment dignified even though it is related to its friendly pair, elemental pair. It will not become a very positive planet still. For a total fool, in this case Rahu, 8, must be negative and relates to the Ascendant. Additionally, Jupiter, 5, has to be negative and unrelated to the Ascendant. In other words, Rahu, 8, is negative, debilitation, detriment, and relates to the Ascendant will encourage infatuation and indulgence, in all vices, naivety, being tricked, manipulated. Additionally, negative Jupiter, 5, that is unrelated to the Ascendant implies that Jupiter, 5, which represents judgment, is not presented or merely presented. When Rahu, 8, takes effects, there will be no resistance from Jupiter, 5. This leads to being naive, misled, tricked, and manipulated, which is considered being a real fool. Furthermore, a weak personal planet plus Mars, 3, the planet of logic and reasoning that is negative and unrelated to the Ascendant, will even indicate a really foolish trait that is beyond recovery. The importance must be put on conjunction, opposition, sextile, and trine, as well as analyzing and criticizing the planets as mentioned every time. 5. Ordinary persons. In the case of an ordinary person that has Jupiter, 5, and Rahu, 8, that are neutral, positive or negative, related or unrelated to the Ascendant, the same principles can also be used. In other words, the comparison between the two planets can be done by evaluating their respective strengths and the quickness of their impacts, dignity plus the relationship weight, as already mentioned. To cover all the contents, other planets have to be taken into consideration as well. Lastly, the native background that will also affect the predicting has to be considered as well. Asterisk concerning Rahu, 8. There are several cases that are interesting since people's life may change a lot. The planet affects people in terms of belief, infatuation, being credulous, cunning, shrewdness, and being sophisticated. It is worth noticing that Ascendant conjoined Rahu, 8, even when it is neutral, will become very powerful. Even other planets could not help resisting their influence. During the teenage years, the native may become misbehaved. Some of them may even ruin their future. A good Rahu, 8, that is unrelated to the Ascendant will be less powerful. Other planets may suppress their influence. When the Ascendant is in Aquarius and Rahu, 8, is Tanu-Lak, exaltation dignified and unrelated to the Ascendant, it implies that the native is not indulged in anything, not cheating. This is not as concerning as in the case of neutral Rahu, 8, that conjoins with the Ascendant. There are several cases in the latter chapters or in the appendix. 6. Womanizer. In the case of a womanizer, Venus, 6, has to be considered most. This is because Venus, 6, represents art, imagination, and lust. Not love. In this case, only the meaning of lust will be taken into account. If Venus, 6, is positive and has exaltation, Moha chakra, pre-exaltation, post-exaltation dignity, and in conjunction or opposition to the Ascendant, it has to be specially considered. However, it has to be conjoined with Mars, 3, staunchness and diligence, friendly pair, or the Sun, 1, kindred pair. It will become even more powerful, especially when these two planets are positive. Although one of these pairs will only imply high lust, which is not enough to become a womanizer. It will instead become an important factor to encourage the womanizing trait. There is only a little difference. The distinguishing factors are just the meanings of the planets, virtues, mindfulness, and opportunities. They can be categorized as follows. 6.1 A person with a high level of lust. Venus, 6, and the Sun, 1, are conjoined or in opposition to the Ascendant. Venus, 6, has to be prominent and has the dignity of exaltation, Maha Chakra, pre-exaltation, or post-exaltation. Additionally, the Sun, 1, is positive. The more positive and powerful the relation, conjunction, opposition, sextile, trine will have lesser effects accordingly. In this case, the Sun, 1, is kindred pair to Venus, 6, and therefore the level of lust will be increased. Although when the Sun, 1, is positive, it will encourage pride and honor. Therefore, the native may become embarrassed to demonstrate these traits to the peers. Therefore, the native could not be considered a womanizer. 5. Having multiple partners does not necessarily mean that the person is a womanizer. On the other hand, seeing the opposite sex and develops a crush on every one of them as well as becoming indulged in sex counts as being a womanizer. 6.2 A womanizer has Venus, 6, and Mars, 3, in conjunction or opposition to the Ascendant. Venus, 6, is prominent and has exaltation, Maha Chakra, pre-exaltation, post-exaltation dignity. Mars, 3, is positive. The better dignity the planet has, the more powerful it becomes. If it is in conjunction, opposition, sextile or trine, it will have a lesser level of influence accordingly. In this case, Mars, 3, represents staunchness, diligence, straightforwardness, and is also a friendly pair to Venus, 6, 2. They will get along really well and will enhance each other in terms of lust and diligence. Moreover, Mars, 3, is positive, implies that the native is brave and straightforward, almost reckless without fearing for others. Therefore, the native will demonstrate even her sexual behaviors. When the native has a crush on someone, she will flirt with that person without giving up easily. Therefore, the native may be considered as a womanizer. However, other planets have to be taken into account as well. For instance, Jupiter, 5, the planet of virtue and thoughtfulness. If Jupiter, 5, is positive and relates to the Ascendant, it will encourage mindfulness and virtue. As a result, the native will not become immoral, will not go astray, and will not commit adultery. This is considered gallantry. On the other hand, if it is not related to the Ascendant, the native may do some mistake sometimes or even commit adultery. For instance, Jupiter is in Mahana, Ari, Venushana, or other bhavas. If Jupiter, 5, is negative and unrelated to the Ascendant, it means that mindfulness and virtue are lacking. This will easily lead to immoral deeds. Adultery may be committed without remorse. Womanizers and seductresses will fall into this category. However, negative Jupiter, 5, that relates to the Ascendant will still imply some virtues and thoughtfulness, although not much. Asterisk in case Venus, 6, is domicile dignified, it implies stability in the end. It does not indicate a high amount of lust. Meanwhile, Raja Yoga and Devi Yoga imply steadiness with no extreme. Other cases will be as usual as mentioned before. In case Mars, 3, or the Sun, 1, is not conjoined with Venus, 6, but instead relates to each other, it will also have effects, although they will become less according to the relationship rules. **** Observations on monks or priests that are pure and good. In terms of astrology, it requires positive Jupiter, 5, that relates to the ascendant plus Venus, 6, is negative, unrelated to the ascendant and not in conjunction with Mars, 3, or the Sun, 1. In other words, these conditions imply high virtues and low lust. Meanwhile, weak Rahu, 8, implies no cunning or trickery. This may enhance Jupiter to become even more prominent. Please stay tuned for the upcoming episodes.